Waking up is so hard to do alone. Birth and death are both experienced alone, and in many ways, this part of the journey is both a death and a birth. The death of who you once believed yourself to be, or that you once believed the world to be, and the birth of the truth and who you really are, a birth to who you are becoming. Your most essential connection is to yourself. If you are experiencing tremendous loneliness, it is likely because you are missing the most important connection, and that connection is to yourself. This primal relationship to self cannot be found in anything external, and that is why part of the journey is a journey to self, and why it must be done alone. If you go all the way, you will discover that alone transcends into all one, where you are connected to everyone and everything regardless of external conditions. From this place, new types of conscious relationships can be established, unlike anything you have ever experienced. Many of us get stuck at the alone place thinking that it will go on forever, and so we begin to anchor our emotional and energetic vibrations there, not knowing that at some point we are really doing it to ourselves by the lonely beliefs that we now carry. Whenever we have been feeling anything for a long period of time, it's easy to get addicted to that emotion. When we have an emotional addiction, we gravitate unconsciously to that particular emotion on a consistent basis. When we consider the law of attraction, it also means that we will attract more of whatever we focus on. So if you are consistently feeling lonely, you are energetically telling the universe that you want to feel lonely. And then the universe will bring you more and more opportunities to feel this way. But you do not have to allow your sadness or despair to attract more of what you do not want. To heal this emotional addiction, first you must take responsibility for your loneliness. As long as you blame the outside world, you have no power to change anything. In order to shift out of loneliness, you must stop focusing on loss and separation, or any emotional associated with the loneliness. You must also release all the stories about being lonely in the past, present, or future. If you don't change your inner story, the outside world cannot change. Also, notice what behaviors you partake in that might actually be worsening your loneliness and isolation, and shift to align with behaviors that will attract love and connection, which we will explore. Others are awakening. I had a dear friend who told me that I was the only one that he could really talk to about his experience of awakening. He said that his other friends didn't understand, that they were all still very asleep. One day I met one of his friends. She and I spent the better part of a day together, walking the boardwalk and getting some sun. This friend confided in me that she was so relieved to talk with me because she had no other friends who were awake enough to understand. I thought. Here were two good friends who were afraid to speak openly with each other, both feeling alone and alienated. I have witnessed this same situation several times over. You just never know who is having an awakening. No matter where you live in the world, you're not alone on your journey. There are others feeling exactly as you, and maybe they are too afraid to reveal their inner plight, just like you. Many awakening people are in denial about the process. After all, it may look very unappealing. With hindsight, I can see that many who judged and criticized me were actually doing and going through similar experiences. Why does everyone think you are crazy? It is tough when those you care about think you have lost your senses. But let's stop and ask, why do they think this? Your friends and family have known you to be one way for years, maybe your whole life, and suddenly you change and you are talking about things you never talked about before, and maybe doing things that seem completely out of character. Well, your behavior does not look awake to the people who are still asleep. It just looks, well, crazy. This doesn't mean that they don't love you. If you are the only one who becomes sane in the midst of insanity, others will perceive you as the crazy one. And the more you try to wake them up, the crazier you seem. How do you relate to the sleepy ones? Find things in common. Maybe those who you love or care about aren't as awake as you, but there are probably still things that you have in common, like shared work, interests, and hobbies. You can experience connection in these ways without having to discuss areas where you don't agree. Since you are more awake, it is your responsibility to guide the conversations in a manner that moves toward connection, and whatever that means for the particular relationship. Forgive the sleepy ones. Sometimes we are met with anger and aggression of those who don't get it, but it is important that we do not return those lower vibration emotions. If you can be forgiving of those who are less awake for their ignorance, that will go a long way in repairing relationships that have grown distance. Mind your own business. When you wake up the truth of the world, it often provokes a deep sense of urgency and responsibility. People need to wake up before we create the apocalypse or humanity is completely enslaved with no way to escape. When time is of the essence, how can we all sit around and wait? The thing is, it's not your job to convince anyone of anything. The same source that woke you up knows how to wake everyone else up as well. Just stay committed to your own journey of discovery aligned with the truth. Take inspired action to do what is best for you. What to do when you are awake, alone, and isolated. Tune up. Often when we awaken, we slip back into sleepiness because we want to interact and connect with those who are still asleep. But this brings us more feelings of disconnection because we are disconnecting from ourselves in order to connect with others. What is the remedy? If you could commit to staying awake and maintaining your connection to yourself, after a little while you would notice that others are in fact awakening. When you do not compromise yourself and go down to meet others where they are, they will either fall out of your life or eventually rise up to meet you. It is not that they are changing. It is that you are actually aligning with a new reality where there are more highly evolved versions of the same people. Find like-minded people. If you have awakened to world issues, find a group or start a group that supports an issue that you feel most passionate about. This will put you in contact with like-minded people so that you will be doing some tangible good. Sometimes we are lonely because it is the universe's way of pushing us in one direction or another. In order to alleviate the pain of loneliness, we end up doing something we otherwise would not have considered. What should you be doing that you are not doing? This is the inner wise should, not the outer manipulative should of the world. This is your higher self speaking to you and guiding you in a particular direction. Be your own best friend. Learn what it means to become your own best friend. Fall in love with yourself, or even date yourself. Take yourself to the beach for a picnic. Go out to dinner at your favorite restaurant, or send yourself flowers. Do for yourself what you wish someone else would do. Make sure that you don't attach sadness to these actions. It must be done from a space of pure self-appreciation. Find ways to have physical connect. Get massages and body work. Anything that allows you to have physical contact with others. Skin-to-skin touching can always make all the difference in the world. Get back in your body. When we feel lonely, we tend to dissociate from the body, which only adds to the experience of loneliness. Be in nature. If you cannot connect to people, you can always connect to nature. It is said that the DMT in our bodies communicates with the DMT in nature. This intuitive and energetic communication creates an experience of connection. Talk to the plants, the trees, and the birds. This might help your family not think you're crazy. I'm kidding. Heavy petting. Pets always love us and never judge us. If you don't have your own cat or dog and cannot get one, go to the park where people always walk their dogs, volunteer at a lost pet agency, or just go to a pet store where you can spend some time giving and receiving love from a fuzzy friend. Get hot. In 2012, Yale researchers discovered that physical warmth was an effective, quick fix substitute for emotional warmth. Research showed that when people held a hot pack, they recalled fewer negative emotions about the past lonely experience. That means that warm baths, hot showers, and heated throws can actually ease the pain of loneliness. Volunteer. Give of your loving heart. It is very difficult to experience loneliness when we are giving of our hearts to others. When we are lonely, we tend to close down, but if you can open up to others through giving, you may experience an immense shift in consciousness. You don't need a lot of people who relate to you and support you, you just need a few. What not to do? Don't share with people who don't understand or don't care to understand. Keep it to yourself. One day these same people will be turning to you for support and information. At that time, do not hold their former ignorance against them. Be compassionate and give what you have. Do not take it personally. It's not about you. Stop judging yourself or calling yourself derogatory names. Don't let others do it to you. Set boundaries for how people can treat you and kindly tell people what those boundaries are when appropriate. Don't preach or persuade. It only creates resistance in others. Be quiet about your awakening and wait for the right moment when the other person is open and receptive. That moment always comes if you are both patient and aware. Don't push it. Those who go first shine the light for others to follow. I know that it can feel like a burden, but it's an honor and a privilege. You may not remember signing up for this assignment, but nonetheless you did, or it would not be happening. When others are ready to wake up, you can invite them to embrace or simply allow their own process of awakening. But it is not your job to wake everyone up. Remember, the awakening process is different for everyone. A couple of years ago, my then 18-year-old son, who had awoken, said to me, "Mom, it must have really sucked when we all thought you were crazy. That must have been really hard." "Yes," I said, "it was really, really hard." If I could speak to my past lonely self, I would tell her to be her own best friend, take time for even deeper self-reflection, and to keep going. It gets better. In fact, it gets great. Maybe there is a future self who is speaking to you now, and maybe he or she is saying, "You're not alone. Be strong. Empower yourself to one day empower others. Do not despair. There is a light at the end of this tunnel, and it is worth any journey to get there. One step at a time, and remember to breathe between the steps." Thank you for coming to Plain Mundane Show. I'm Alex Aquarius. Please hit like, subscribe, and ring the bell for notifications. I'm out.